a song to the dawn, shouting a new world is born. I am awakened, I am awakened, I am awakened to love. I am awakened to love.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's give everyone a hand for singing. That was beautiful. This is Memorial Weekend. I kept seeing the signs coming up. When I was working, I could tell when the holidays were coming, but now that there's a so-called retirement status, sometimes I don't know when the holidays are coming because every day feels like the same day. So with that said, happy Memorial Weekend. I hope we're celebrating the life and times of those that matter to us in our lives, just not the military, but those that stood by the military, that were praying for the military, that were born of the military. And it seems like that's a global thing, and it's an opportunity to celebrate our lives and give thanks for being here. So it seems like a long time that I've been here, and I thank you, Reverend Danny, for inviting me back in my Gainesville family and my favorite subject, the 7 habits of highly effective people. But we decided that I was going to start out with the 7 habits of the highly effective teens that become highly effective people. Because I thought that if I had had these habits when I was a kid, I would be a millionaire by now, right? And this and that and this and that and this and that. So as I looked at my life and started to research the habits when they came out, the 7 habits for highly effective teens wasn't even written until I started doing the 7 habits. And the 7 habits of highly effective people was actually written in 1989. So this material wasn't even out when I was a teenager. But guess what? It was. It was in the form of everything that we already know and do. It is the natural laws. It is the fundamental truth. Let me read this first page to you and let you see how this has always been here. Who am I? I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the things you do, you might as well just turn over to me and I will be able to do them quickly and correctly. I am easily managed. You must just be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done, and I will do it automatically after a few lessons. I'm the servant of all great individuals and alas of all failures as well. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made a failure. I'm not a machine, though I work with the precision of a machine, plus the intelligence of a human. You may run me for profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will put the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? Who am I? A habit. That's what a habit is. In the newsletter, you may have seen FM Alexander said, people do not decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their future. So what's our habit? Now, as a kid, I grew up United Methodist, and as I grew up and started to see some of the do's and the don'ts of that, the do's that I like to do, based on that, I wasn't headed for good habits because I like dancing and going out and just having a good old time. And based on that, it's like you're not going to the right place. There was a up place and a down place. So, based on all of my habits, I was going to the down place. And that didn't feel right. That just didn't feel right. So, as I looked at the habits of the people around me, what I saw was they were sending us to school to be intelligent. But then when we went to church, they wanted us to just believe what was said, whether it made sense or not. So I had to relate that to Santa Claus. All right. So Santa Claus really didn't kind of make sense, but I really kind of like Santa Claus because I would get some stuff that I wanted. So as I looked at how they were describing religion and Jesus and all of that, it kind of matched. So what happened for me, though, was I also had farming grandparents. And as you go on a farm, you can see nature for yourself. And as you see nature for yourself, there was a habit in nature. There was a habit of the seasons. You would have the seasons for planting, and then you would have the season for harvesting. And so as I looked at nature and religion and school, guess what? You develop your own habits. You develop the habit that makes you young all the way into now. So what were our habits? That's why I wanted to focus on what our habits were. I'm going to give you the 7 habits. I hope you've been getting them a whole 7 the whole month, but I'll remind you of them because with the 3rd book that I have up here, I won't hold it up. What matters most is what our habits are. How do we spend our time? Because if COVID-19 didn't do nothing for you, it should tell you the most valuable thing we have is time. The people had all this money. They had airplanes. They couldn't fly. They couldn't go anywhere. People couldn't go. Money had nothing to do with anything, really. I mean, you needed it to live, and we need that. I'm not negating it. Healthcare, all that, food. But it wasn't our money that saved our lives. It was our habits. What did we do? I think that's how we got it, because of our habits. What were we doing? So as we're growing up and we're looking at these teenagers and the graduates that are coming out, I have a granddaughter that actually graduated. I brought her little commencement exercise. Do you imagine kids graduating during COVID? So that's the habit of being you. These kids had to learn how to be themselves in a brand new environment. I had to be me in desegregation. Each person had to be who you were in your teen years or whatever the universe was offering at the time. These are the habits. Were we proactive, which is habit 1? Did we begin with the end in mind, which is habit 2? And did we put first things first, which is habit 3? Now, if we didn't do that as a teenager, you think we're going to do that now? Probably not, because we made a habit of being reactive, blaming everybody else on planet Earth of what's going on. So if we started doing it as a teenager, don't you think we're going to do it in the office? We're going to do it at home. We're going to do it in traffic. So it goes back to what kind of teenager were we? And if we've got some teenagery things happening in our 60s and in our 70s and in our 80s and in our 90s, I know some 90-year-olds that can grow up. No. No, I know a very grown-up 90-year-old, and he keeps me and check that every day is a new day, Angela. Every day you can start a new habit. Every day is a new beginning. Every day is a natural law because the sun comes up whether we decide we want to come up or not. And the sun goes down whether we came up that day or not. And the moon is out there too. All of those are natural laws, fundamental truths. So as I looked at the intelligence of my childhood when they were sending me the math and physics, and then you're telling me there's a power greater, but it'll kick your butt if you don't do what it says, that's a natural law. It does kick your butt. It kicks your butt because you said kick your butt, not because somebody else sends it out there to you. Natural laws, what go around, come around. So as we are kids growing up and we play on the playground, and then our playground becomes soccer fields and swim teams and cheerleading, and then it becomes graduating and going to college and sororities and SGA and a BA or a BS, and then it's family, and then it's children, then it's work. Okay, what kind of habits are we bringing into these areas? And we can see it in our own lives. All we got to do is start here. This is habit 1, 2, and 3. It only has to do with you. We can either be dependent on a power greater than us in that proactive mode, or we can depend on every single thing that stopped us from doing what we wanted. Our mothers, our fathers, our husbands, our books. It was too hard. The class was too hard. I don't want to take that class. I remember going to college. 17 years old, now you're on your own. What are your habits? My habit was I didn't want to take political science. I don't, politics I still kind of not real sure about. So I decided I was going to drop this class. Guess what? That class followed me all the way to graduation. You were going to have to pass this class if you wanted to graduate. It was no leaving college without that class. Well, I took it in the summer because it was shorter. How about that? But I'm saying this to say there's no getting away with it either. When we decide that we can examine our own lives, that was a quick examination. It came quickly because it was in my window of time, and I decided to be proactive and graduate. I began with the end in mind and graduated. I put first things first and graduated. This was 77 to 81. This book wasn't out yet. Guess what? The habits are. We're the habits. How we walk around in our lives are the habits. So one of the things that I loved about what song you sang today was It's in Every One of Us. I got introduced to the 7 habits the same time as a facilitator, the same time I got introduced to the science of mind. You guys know Ernest Holmes. I talk about him a great deal. He helped me even more than natural laws in the farming, because he called, there were so many names for God. It was Jesus and Yahweh, and then I started traveling and it was Allah and Buddha and Jah. It's like all these names. Ernest Holmes said, it's the thing itself. It's in everything. It's in every one of us. It's every single thing that exists. Once it become everything, then everything mattered. So how in the world does something not matter if it is in everything? The thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. That's what Ernest told me. I'm like, what is a it? It's a it. It's not even, it's a it. Oh my God. They said it was that. They said it was that. It was that. It was that. It's everything. What if we tell our kids God is everything, everywhere? Did we hear that growing up? Not quite like that, did we? But there would be a song from my childhood. He's got the whole world in his hands. Isn't that the same thing? The words matter. So if let's stop talking so much is what I've been telling my friends. I'm like, I'm not going to talk too much. You're going to have to ask me, because even when I tell you, you're translating it, and this is another thing the habits gave us, with your paradigms. How you saw, what you saw when you grew up. If you didn't grow up seeing a farm, you don't know what harvesting is. You just go to the store and say, oh, here's an apple. Growing up on a farm, I saw how that apple grew, or that pear grew, or those pecans grew. If we don't grow ourselves, we just don't think you're going to pick it off a vine. We might be dealing with people like that didn't grow themselves. They were never proactive, never began with the end in mind, never put first things first. So if we haven't done that, we're dependent on something other than that power, that it. And we can call it what we want to. We are in the Bible Belt, so sometimes if we don't call it Jesus, we might get looks. So when I first started this teaching, and I was so excited about it wasn't just Jesus, it was everything, then I grew horns because I wasn't really saying it the way people would accept it. So guess what? Since that's your word, I can say your word to you. My word is it. They don't like that word. So they got to say God to me. They got to say Jesus to me. They got to say Yahweh to me. I'm okay with that now. I wasn't okay with it at first. I was probably a little snotty-nosed kid. Don't say that to me. But I grew up. I got mature. I'm not dependent on what they say to me. I'm dependent on what I say to me. I had to pass that political science class. I couldn't send them to tell you go take that class with me, then you can come tell me. No, I had to figure out how to pass that test. So the test I had to learn how to pass being the Bible Belt is like, oh yeah, I agree with you, but I had to understand how I agreed with you. I don't agree with you that I have to be crucified, dead, and buried. I can live life right here, right now in the kingdom. This is the kingdom. Being proactive is the kingdom. Beginning with the end in mind is the kingdom. Putting first things first is the kingdom. When you mess with the kingdom will mess with you. When you are right with the kingdom is right with you. When you plant seeds, let them nurture and let them grow, they will. I use movies and music for my messages because it will get you the message some kind of way. It got it to me through the science of mind, through the 7 habits. Each of us have our way of getting the Bible. It works with the Quran. I read a lot of books, and every one of those books has a language. If you go and travel throughout the country, there's a lot of languages. Right here in the United States, if I go to Columbus, Georgia, sometimes I need an interpretation of my cousin when he's talking to me that lived on that farm. Because the way I know it now, but every now and then there's a part of that conversation. What'd you say? Say that again. You can go out to the west, you can go to the north, you can go to parts of South Carolina where there's Geechee and there's what did they just say? So as we're looking at the language doesn't really matter much if you know the kingdom. We can feel it. If you walked into a room where there is toxicity, you feel it. When you walk into a room where there's happy, you feel it. You just join right in. So what we want to do as our senior teenagers that we are, because we are forever growing. That's what the whole point of the 7 habits of highly effective teenagers becoming adults, because we have that chance to do that every time we fall back into some immature behavior. That way we can do habit 4, think win-win, because you can't be immature and think win-win. You have to be an independent individual to know that you're a contributor to the planet. You're adding to. So if you think win-lose, that means you're taking away from the planet. I got to get this, so you can't have that. No, we think win-win. If we think win-win, which this is a win-win. Every time I come here, I win, and I hope you win too. I seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's habit 5. Doesn't mean I agree with you, but I'm going to listen to you because you need to be listened to. And then 6, synergize. That means we come together. That's what this is. You got Reverend Danny at the head, Don at the piano, a pop-up choir, media, synergy. That's 6. You can't have think win-win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, and synergy without being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first. That's why we have the conflict in the world. Someone was asking me about retirement. At retirement, I get to sit back and look at all the proactive and reactive situations I've been in. When I was reactive and when I was proactive. And I can see the difference. What goes around comes around. When I'm reactive, I get a different response than when I'm proactive. Because I have not begun with the end in mind if I'm reactive. I have not stopped to say, you know what? Let's be peaceful. Let's be kind. Let's have integrity. Let's have character. So our paradigms, are they set up on character? You know, what are we teaching our children? What did I see? What did you see when you were little? What did we take into our teenager years that we are bringing into our senior teenager years? When we think about the thing itself, I think about the fact that our life is by natural laws, by fundamental truth. And so far that a thought is in accord with the perfect law, it will accomplish, and nothing can hinder it. A false fact is neither a person, place, or thing to the one that uncovers it. And once it's uncovered, there's no place it can hide. So once the truth is out there, if you're telling your own truth, if you're being proactive, you can't lie to yourself, right? Right? If you're being reactive, you can. So one of the psychology things that I've learned is that to thine own self be true. If we could teach each teen that and remind our own teenagery self when we're not being true, that's proactive. That's recognition of the truth. Didn't they say Jesus was the truth? The way, the truth, and that's why I can dig Jesus now. I'm like, now I know what they really meant. When I was growing up, Jesus didn't really sound like that to me. Jesus really scared me, actually, because we was going to be crucified. That's how I saw it. It's like, whoa, let's not do that. The other thing that I did proactively, though, was being a Girl Scout. The word on my honor was said weekly. We are in a memorial weekend. This is honoring the lives of others that gave their lives for us. We are giving our lives right now. Every person that we greet, every prayer that we say, every breath that we take is not on our own accord. It is on the cord of that perfect law that raises the sun and the moon, that wakes us up in the morning. And if we could teach that that is a gift, and they say it's the present, it's the gift. Let's use it now. So what I do on a daily basis to keep myself motivated is that I share a lesson, a laugh and a lesson now. There's a friend of mine that sent me a laugh one day, and I'm like, I pass it on to my lesson people, and they, oh, it was so funny. So today's laugh is, why did the moon skip dinner? Because it was full. And then the lesson, the lesson today was that I sent out. When structures and systems are aligned, they create integrity and integratedness. They facilitate rather than roadblock what we're trying to do. The only way there's a roadblock is blame. Is someone else, there's someone else stopping you from being you. If you're proactive, there's nobody that can stop you from being you because you're working now with the law, God. And you can start it from little. We started it from little. They had us out there helping out, planting or whatever, digging in the dirt. It's up to us to decide how to work the law. Each of us are like that grain of sand or that snowflake. There's nobody like you. There's a fingerprint that identifies you specifically. But they'll throw us in a classroom when we're high schoolers or teenagery and say, be like that person, be like that person, be like that person. She's like that, be like her, grow up. Or at home, why can't you be like your big brother? Why can't you be like your little sister? Why can't you, why can't you, why can't you? And if we listen to other than the kingdom, we'll be a why can't you till we die. Instead of, I did it. I did it. I did it. This is a copy of the book that shows proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first. This is my book called Birds of a Feather. And I remember at some point wanting to stop. I was over it. The illustrator and I had bumped heads, and the beauty of it was fading. But I know the habits. I know there's a power bigger than me. I know there's something greater. And all I did was stop and pause. And really, for the science of mind of this, for the unity of this, for the spirituality of this, when we pause, that's where the prayer is. If we pause, we tell God, okay, God, I don't know what I'm doing. Help me. Tell me. We don't have all the answers. The answers are all here, but we don't have them all here. So when I stopped, I actually took a trip because that's like therapy to me. Dancing and traveling. Those are my most therapeutic things besides reading. And so I went on a trip, and while I was on that trip, the publisher said, we're going to put this together. And we put it together, and it's here. So being proactive means we never give up. It's too many of us giving up. I had my granddaughter that graduated, had people around her that did not graduate. We actually went to a funeral of a friend of hers that was shot at 15. So for her to have had that feat in her life, she now knows what proactive is. She now knows what beginning with the end in mind is. She now knows what putting first things first requires, because she had to do that, and she had her own hills to climb and her own valleys. Each of us are going to have them. If anybody tells you that there's something wrong with you because something wrong happened, dismiss them. Excuse them. I don't know whether it's permanent or temporary. That's your call. But everyone has to prove they believe in a power bigger than themselves. Planting that seed in the ground is proof There's a power bigger than me. I don't keep pulling up that plant to see if it's growing. It won't be healthy that way. It'll grow up broken or not at all or not as big as it should be. So we have to let kids go through what they go through because they're here to leave their legacy. One of the things that I will close with is that I had a friend of mine who made his transition, and I had just started my journey in the science of mind and just became a facilitator of the 7 habits. Julian is his name. I will honor by saying his name. But I went to his service, and one of the songs they played, I'm going to close out with reading. But Julian was this wonderful person. And the newness that he gave me to be proactive and begin with the end in mind and put first things first is the word opulent. Anybody ever use that word? Isn't that a wonderful word? He used to say, I'm opulent. I'm going to have an opulent life. And he did. I mean, crystal, silver, little Dapper Dan. I don't know whether you know that word that ages me when I say Dapper Dan, but, he was just stylish. Everything was put together. He walked in the room, and I think the room stopped. He was like that. And so I was still mourning him, but I wanted to be happy. I knew he didn't want me. So he had lived in Myrtle Beach for a while, was a little conservative. He was a gay guy, so he didn't live there very long. He's like, I'm not happy here. But I went to Myrtle Beach to see how it was. And so while I was there, I took my turtle. I had a turtle named Noah. He lasted past 40 days is how he got his name. And so Noah was a lot of work, and I decided as I mourn my friend and go to Myrtle Beach, I'm going to release Noah to freedom. And they always have forestry and, people to help. So I thought I was going to put Noah in Myrtle Beach, right, or in the ocean. And when I saw the ocean and it was no coastline, there was no rocks for Noah to climb, I'm like, Noah would drown. No, and we sat. No, I had Noah on the balcony while we looked. I'm like, Noah's gonna drown if I put. Yeah. So I didn't have food for Noah. I just knew I was gonna put Noah in the. So I had gone over and gotten some extra food for the. And someone said, the forestry is always here, and there's a pond. And they told me, and I actually didn't put Noah in the ocean. I found a pond to put Noah in. But as I thought about it, we can think one thing, and we see the vastness of something, and it will change our minds. And we may have to start with baby steps. I couldn't just throw Noah into the ocean. He would drown. So with that said, I thought about my friend Julian. I'm like, thank you, Julian, for the laugh. And this is the song that played right after I came back from releasing Noah to freedom, which was also played at my friend's services. So as we're building our own legacy, you see this goose and the golden egg. I got this as a facilitator of the 7 habits, which has been 24 years ago. Birds of a feather we are. We have to take care of this bird in order to produce. So the legacies that I want to mention with my friend as I close out with the song, Jim Brown, we recently lost him. Tina Turner, we recently lost her. And I think about the fact that we didn't lose them yet. Some of the members have passed, but Earth, Wind, and Fire has been in legacy for 52 years. And I celebrated a friend's life yesterday. I have her obituary, and it was in Byron, Georgia. So I had to go past Warner Robins, and I stopped by the Aviation Museum, and the legacy is there. I think I mentioned to you the last time I talked that we have a African-American aviator, and she is in the Hall of Fame there. So what is your legacy as you are proactively living? And this is the song, and I'll just read a few lyrics. For the teenager that's in your life and the teenager that's in you, I hope you dance is the title. I hope you never lose your sense of wonder. You get your fill to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leaves you empty-handed. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. And when you get a chance to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. And so it is. So as we absorb our habits of active happiness, I'm going to share with you for our meditation, Richer Living for this day, May 28th, Memorial Day weekend 2023. The verse is from Mark 11:24. What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe ye will receive, and ye shall have them. Anytime I use the word I will try to substitute it for we, but change it to you. We use divine power in practical ways, and right action reveals in all our affairs. There could be no explicit technique for effective prayer than this one laid down by the Master himself. We actually are to believe that we are already in possession of the objects of our desires and what we ask for. We are to accept it even as we believe in the harvest which follows the spring planting. Therefore, every spring should we have hope for every harvest of fulfillment. We must learn to accept the good we desire and affirm its presence in our experience here and now. Realizing that there is a law of good that governs all our affairs, we lose every sense of doubt, fear, or uncertainty and accept the good that we desire here and now. Realizing that the law of good not only knows how to create, but it must contain within itself all the details of its own creation. We let go of every thought of an outlying and accept the perfect answer today. Feeling a deep sense of gratitude and joy because of this, we live enthusiastically in calm and happy anticipation of more yet to come. Because there is no sense of strain in this, we relax in a quiet contentment, while at the same time realizing that what the law of good does is for us, and it must do it through us. We declare that we are not only we only know what to do, but we are compelled to do it. For it is not a dream we are entering into. It is a state of wholeness. We release and escape from any conditions of unhappiness or unwholeness. We act in fulfillment. We move into greater spheres of action in complete certainty, calm confidence, and unlimited trust. Today, everything in my experience shall be reanimated, reborn, increased. Gladly, we accept this good and place no limits in the divine givingness. And I'll close with the wisdom of Yoda. There is no try, there is only do. Let's do you, and so it is.
The joy I have known, open my eyes to see how I have grown, like all the flowers that bloom here on earth, awaken in me a rebirth. Awaken in me a time to renew, guide me to see love in all things I do. Darkness will fade